The Daleks are as iconic to Doctor Who as the Blue Tardis or the Time Lord himself, being around since the second ever story and quickly becoming a staple for the series. Pretty much every single incarnation of the Doctor has had an on-screen encounter with the space dustbins. Sorry, Paul McGann, I do hope we get an 8th Doctor spin-off series so that you can show how damn perfect for the role you really are. The thing about a super powerful, deadly, scary monster is that overexposure to it, seeing it too much, can really water down the impact of having it arrive on screen. Before the 2005 revival, we'd seen the Dalek stories grow and grow to larger levels, where you had entire factions of Daleks at war with each other. The last time the Daleks showed up before Eccleston donned the blue box was in the story Remembrance of the Daleks, where you had two factions seen in large numbers, squads of Daleks attacking each other on the streets. The impact of the single Dalek machine was significantly reduced by stories like this, as the individual Daleks became more akin to cogs in a grander Dalek plan than being a threat on their own. So when it came to bringing them back in the revival in this new revamped show, and come on, let's be real, they had to bring them back, the correct decision was made to make the first new Dalek story about one solitary Dalek, to show its raw power and capacity for destruction, to show us what they really are, and to give us a reason to be afraid of them again, like so many were back in the day. So let's dive into the episode Dalek and look at the various aspects of this episode that I think make it so effective. Henry Van Statten's underground bunker in Utah is a brilliant setting for an episode such as this. Essentially a breakout story where the Dalek is locked away in a cage more than 50 floors down under the ground and has to work its way up and out, killing armed guards as it slowly moves up the levels to get to the surface. This claustrophobic setting gives a lot of tension to the story. The characters are isolated from the rest of the world, and through the Doctor's words and reactions, we see that he really does need to stop this Dalek from getting out of the facility by any means necessary. It also allows the Dalek to shine, the tight corridors and walkways making us feel cramped and trapped, showing us how hopeless the situation is if you're ever to find yourself in a room with a Dalek where you can't run away. I think something that adds to the Dalek's presence in this episode is the way it is portrayed and how that portrayal focuses on its power. It's as if they decided to take every single aspect of a Dalek that could be laughed at and mocked and flip it on its head. The plunger was seen as an extremely goofy and stupid design choice for one of the two arms of a Dalek. Honestly, it does still look a little bit silly, and it begs the question as to why the Daleks have a toilet plunger for an arm. However, in this episode, after being freed, how does the Dalek kill its first victim? He suffocates it with the plunger.
What you gonna do? Sucker me to death?
And after this, it doesn't really seem that silly. I remember seeing this when I was a kid and being terrified of plungers. It's such a harrowing scene. The Dalek then uses the plunger to open a locked door, to interface with the computer, the internet, to regenerate itself, showing that actually this is really a useful piece of equipment that they have. One of the best ways of outsmarting a Dalek was to run behind them, as they really had no means of shooting backwards, and it would take them time to turn around to fire at you, but not anymore. This fantastically brutal scene shows the Dalek fluidly twisting its middle section around so that it can shoot anyone wherever they are, whether they're right in front of it or if they've snuck up from the rear, and we can see how quickly and efficiently a Dalek can dispatch a whole squad of soldiers. Truly terrifying. In the classic series, and I don't want to offend anyone who is a big classic Doctor Who stan, but I think that the Daleks just seemed weaker. They're getting blown up by things left, right and centre. But in this episode, this Dalek is shown to be pretty impenetrable. We see that it has a kind of force field, which makes it invulnerable to any kind of human projectile weapons. We see the bullets being shot at it be vaporized just before it can touch the shell itself. And even before it fixes itself and before it has its force field, we see Simmons trying to break into the shell with a buzzsaw or a hammer or something, with little progress, showing that there is an innate strength of the hull itself. Daleks can't go upstairs. That's an age-old mantra that made the Daleks seem obsolete and extremely flawed. And, well, it was quite a big flaw. The first time we see Daleks go upstairs is not in this episode. It's actually in the classic series with the 7th Doctor. However, this episode has got a whole scene built around this idea. We see the fear in the eyes of Rose as soon as it starts to float off the ground. And I can imagine that people who are watching this episode, who hadn't really seen all of the classic series and maybe hadn't seen that original episode where the Dalek levitates up the stairs, were pretty spooked by this. This Dalek is much more advanced than any we've ever seen so far, and it fully has the capability to get out and wreak havoc on the world. They even give the iconic hemispheres a function in this episode, acting as a means of self-destruction at the end of the episode. Every single aspect of this iconic creature that has been made fun of over the years was given a revamp and made more deadly, more useful. This is a Dalek unlike any we have seen before. Interestingly though, the Dalek isn't just here to wow us with its new design and new toys. It actually serves a greater narrative purpose, and that's to explore the Doctor's personality. Over the course of this episode, we see both the Doctor and the Dalek go on sort of opposite character journeys, sort of swapping sides and becoming more like the other as the episode goes on. Until this episode, we've seen glimpses of the 9th Doctor's broody and darker side, but in this episode we see him rapidly regress into a warlike state, becoming aggressive and determined to kill the Dalek at whatever cost.
Rid the universe of your filth! Why don't you just die?
The Dalek, on the other hand, slowly starts to change as well, gaining emotions, fears, things that a Dalek was never meant to have. And by the end of the episode, it starts to listen to reason. It spares people's lives with its ultimate goal just to be free, a far cry from its original directive of killing everything. It starts to become non-Dalek, something else, something different, and it serves to show us just how far the Doctor is willing to go. We first see this change in the Doctor when he meets it for the first time, and this is a beautiful scene. Wonderfully written and fantastically acted by Eccleston. To begin with, the Doctor goes in to help, even though he doesn't know what's in this cage. It is typical of the Doctor to want to help whatever person, whatever creature, whatever thing that is in need and is asking for help. This is something that we're used to. But as soon as the Dalek speaks and the Doctor realises what he has just been trapped in a room with, we see the Doctor's fear and panic, something that we really don't see that much of. He is scared of this Dalek until he realises it's powerless. His joy when the Dalek can't actually fight back is weirdly manic and slightly sadistic. And from here on, we see that power shift. The Doctor starts to berate and insult, taunts and brags to the Dalek, his anger evidently driving his actions and his word, and at the end he tries to kill the thing. But this is really odd. We don't see the Doctor this aggressive. We don't see him act like this. It's really quite shocking. The Dalek brings out something in him that nothing else can, and this is the first time that we really learn of what the Doctor did during the Time War, how he killed the Daleks and the Time Lords. I know that this has kind of changed with the 50th anniversary, but at the time this episode released, this was the canon. We see his true hatred for this creature bubble up to the surface all throughout the episode. And there is something that sort of connects these two. The Doctor and the Dalek are similar. They're survivors of a war. They are soldiers. They're battered by that war. They're broken. And I think it's beautiful that ultimately it's Rose Tyler that fixes them both. Rose Tyler's touch on the Dalek is what gives it the energy it needs to reconstitute itself, to heal itself. But ultimately, it ends up healing different. taking on new properties, fear and emotion. It's fixed, but it's changed. And I think that parallels her touch on the Doctor's life. It gives him the energy he needs to reconstitute himself, to heal himself. But when he does heal back, he has changed. And we see the fruits of this in his finale. In the Time War, the Doctor wiped out both the Time Lords and the Daleks to end the destruction ravaging the galaxy. And in Parting of the Ways, we see the Doctor face a similar decision. Kill all the Daleks, rid the universe of the creatures he hates so much, but at the cost of killing all of humanity as well. But this time, he doesn't do it. And that's because he's changed. And Rose Tyler was a massive part in that. We see through both the 9th and the 10th Doctor that his connection to Rose is deep and meaningful. And I think it's safe to say that without her, he would be a very different person. As you can probably tell by my previous Doctor Who analysis videos, I love seeing the Doctor's darker side. It allows the actors to really express themselves in different ways to normal. And I would count this whole episode as an exploration of that darker side of the character. And you know what? I love this conclusion. Rose reaching down into the darkness through the Doctor's rage and anger, making him see properly. See the Dalek for what it's actually becoming, and ultimately convincing him to stand down. The Doctor's companions serve a huge purpose. They are there to ground the Doctor, make them see things in a different way, give them clarity. This is a fun, scary, brutal, emotional episode that revives one of the series' most iconic monsters in a refreshing and unique way, and I love it. The concept, the design, the writing, the action is brilliant, and I hope that this video has clearly expressed that. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'm the Rambling Man. I ramble on about things that I love. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I've got more videos up, got some Doctor Who content, got some non-Doctor Who content. Go check it out. Don't forget to leave a comment as well. It really helps the algorithm. Yeah, and I guess I'll see you on the next video. Bye.